good to be here. And thank you for the voting. I was actually expecting something like that. And this session is actually going to speak about the first 2 points. Why security is boring and designing a good, secure API architecture. This is what is going to be the session today. So was in Prague yesterday. I landed yesterday. I arrived at home at 3 o'clock this evening. This with my son. It was the World Cup in Prague for rock climbing. Is there any climber here in the room? You, good. So we had the opportunity, especially for my son, to meet Adam Ondra and all these crazy guys. This was amazing, crazy. But it was really sunny. So look at my face, it's just exploding. Something about myself. I'm a freelance. I work for many companies around the world. So I'm very old wolf of IT. Very old. Believe me. And I've done so many things. I work for integration. I don't know how many of you knows about Beanstalk Grinch. That was me in the past. I was crazy about Beanstalk, so it was really good on that. And so integration, I've done a lot of cloud governance. I have the opportunity to work for big corporation and managing and helping them about consolidating huge cloud infrastructure. For huge, I mean 2,500 subscriptions and a lot of enterprise agreement, these kinds of things. So it was kind of very good learning path for me. I have several certifications, of course, I have any of you. We need that to keep going. So about security and other things. And Microsoft MVP, speaker, blogger, and so on. So just start with the session. We will speak about different things. Why this session? I was looking about giving you this year something very valuable. And that was about, not easy to speak about API security, deep dive, what even means deep dive API security is such a, big, bold, term to do that. So I tried to split this topic in different way, but most for me, it was about looking about my experience on this, right? And try to give you my deep insight. So we will speak about different stages, threat and attack for API. We will look about the protection, and we will do some conclusion. But first of all, I want to speak to you about what is cybersecurity today. That's really important, all right? Every time I use some slide or something like Kaspersky Word with a lot of battle, these kind of things. What I'm going to do this year, how many of you knows about this? Just a few. Okay. This is the Flipper Zero, all right? This is actually, I have this. So later on, if you want to look about this, come to me and I will show you what is actually this one. This one is a swift knife for, I would say criminal, all right? Not hacker. It's not really complicated to use, this one. And with this one, you can do a lot of things relating to radio frequency. I can actually shut down any appliance here using radio frequency in this room right now, using a brute force attack, just pressing a couple of buttons with this. I can open a car, I can open a gate, I can stop a Tesla, I can hack a Wi-Fi with this one. So this little device is actually a full disposal of all people around the world. Even a kid, and if you look about YouTube, look about Flipper Zero, you will find thousands of video of people playing with this stuff, stopping Tesla, cars, and all these kind of things. So this is cybersecurity today. So this is not about smart or crazy, mindset people doing things to be able to attack us or our infrastructure. They just need this tool. And there is a lot of nice tools or big tools to do this stuff. Very, very easy way, right? So this is a very important concept to understand when we speak about API security, all right? API is everywhere. This is some statistic. Some people are not really aware about that. Most of them, yes. But 83% of all the internet traffic is belonging to API, which is quite impressive if we think about such a number, right? We use website, we use things, everything. Behind that, there is actually API. And of course, there are attacks. You can see here some of the most big attacks happened in the past year and so on. Big companies, you can see the effect of this attack. So quite, I would say, significant, especially about the business, money. If you think about the companies like LinkedIn and Twitter, you think about also the reputation, because behind this, there is not just about money. It's not just about business. This is reputation. When this company gets hacked for any reason, they also compromise the reputation, everything. So this can be, I know about companies, they just close because of an attack, or change the name completely, brand, because not being able to keep going with the business anymore. So this is really serious thing. When we speak about the API, how many of you know about OWASP top API security? Not many. Okay. So this is something that the consortium decide about. Let's list some of the 10 most, I would say, common type of API attack. This is the 10 most common API attack. All right? I don't want to bore you with these things, but this is just something you have to know, right? So when we speak about API security, this is when you need to refer. Just look in the website, go and read these things, because this is explaining you about some of the most common attack to the API. But I want to explain you one very important concept about attack. How a hacker attack your company. How actually is the strategy? This is something really important. So what you see here is how a company has been structured. So you see there is different layer, which is going to be the infrastructure, the host space, and the OS board enumeration, until coming to the core. And if you go across all this layer, you will see there are different technologies and technologies layer you know very well, going in and in and in and in, right? Okay? So let's keep going. What an attacker is going to do, how it works. This is how it works. It's starting from the external, right? Usually using social engineering, in trying to look or find some endpoint, and start attacking, right? Using tools. And from the external, it starts finding vulnerability. The square you see, there are possible vulnerability. When he found a vulnerability, he's getting into the path and go on. And 1 and 2 layers until he is able to catch and catch the core. This is where the attacker is, he wants to, actually land, right? That is the target. So let's come back now and go back to the attack strategy. So we have in the core server databases, and we have human. Human are inside the core of the company, right? Okay? So API is at this layer, usually, all right? So the API is usually exposing an endpoint. And when it's exposing an endpoint, it's usually also accessing to the core, like using databases, server, machine, all these kind of things. Why I'm showing you that? Because this is why it's so important for hacker today attack your API. Because it's the best and quickest way to arrive to the core directly, arrive to the database, just externally. It's exposing an external endpoint, and from an external perimeter, I can go straight inside the core. This is so valuable. I don't need to do all this search around. If I get a vulnerable API, I can get straight to the core, right? Second point is this one, the human. That is the best one. Because if I'm able, as a hacker, to hack a human, I'm already inside the core. That's fantastic, right? So, human factor and culture of security. 93% of the developer are still using REST. Make sense? Right? Yeah, it makes sense. A lot of using. And 90% of content are confident that they don't have a complete API inventory. This is true. This is true. Okay? How many of you have a good, or you are confident to have a good API inventory? Nobody. Good. That's what I was expecting as an answer. But there are also these things. There are actually public tools like this one where people can just put a link of API and can actually do a penetration test directly to the API, right? So this is actually legal things, right? Now we are going to some kind of attack. This one is the dorks. I don't know how many of you know about dorks. You can actually use kind of technique and search in Google to find the vulnerability in the API. There are some terminology you see here, like secret keys, this terminology you see here, password and other things, SSL certificate, extension, and you may be surprised what actually came up. This one you see here is, let me grab my glasses, sorry, I'm just checking for my glasses because I age, I need glasses. All right, so this actually, I'm going to show you some of the most common attack to API. So this one is an attack to, where I can put this one? Okay, this one is an attack to, is using, I don't know how many of you know about Shodan. Just searching about application JSON on Shodan. Shodan is like a Google, is the Google of IT. Is actually indexing everything on internet. If you put in Shodan application JSON, you will find like 4 million and over or API. This is all public endpoint, or at least exposed on internet. Something potentially people can just try and to attack. This one you see here, this is GitHub, using dork in GitHub, okay? It's using actually searching, like, for example, API keys. So nothing really complicated actually to do in GitHub, and looking about that, and checking about, you see, checking issues, so clicking in issues, and searching for API keys, you can actually find discussion between developer. Here, you can see a developer exposing an API key in GitHub. That is exposing GitHub. You do this now, you will find a lot of this in GitHub, a lot. This is quite disturbing if you think something like that, right? So this one is another thing. So this one is going to be a bit more scary, in my opinion, because people think about, oh, okay, I've done my things in my API, all this stuff, and now I'm okay. So what about the other things we have done last year? Oh, nothing, I don't care. But there are this website, like a Wayback Machine. Using this website, you can actually travel in time. You can travel in time. You can go back in time, right? So what hackers normally do, and they use a lot this technique, a lot, because this is for your inventory, your API inventory. You don't know what is going on with your API inventory. And this is what's happened. What they do, they use a Wayback Machine. They travel back in the time, and they look about your repo in GitHub, all these kind of things, or even your website back in time. And what they do, they're going to try attack your website back in time. So if you still have API deployed, right, they can actually use and exploit this API back in time. So think about, this is, for example, using Wayback Machine inside GitHub, right? Okay. This one, I don't know how many of you knows about this guy here. This is Truffle Dog. Truffle Dog is one of the many tools. I spent the last 2 years looking a study about security. I joined hacking communities, other things, get certification, try understanding. You know, this is the matter, guys. They use tools. That's it. It's nothing more than that. There is nothing complicated. What you see here is just a single line of command, nothing more than that, pointing to a GitHub repository using Truffledore. And this is something you can use with your code to check your code. And using this tool, you can see I'm finding a lot. This is a public Git repo. You see, certificate and many other things. Certificate, like that. This is public. You go just in GitHub now with Truffledore. Use it. You will find tons of these things everywhere. Everywhere. It's disturbing, right? And I'm getting the point now. I'm showing you all these things because, right? So that is one important thing. That's something that is really annoying me, very. 78%, this kind of statistic, of attack is coming from legitimate user. Yeah, it's true. You know why? Because they're actually using the user. That is more disturbing than other. They are not even using a kind of crazy user or found something. They just register in the service, they use the user, and they start attacking, right? And they find the vulnerability. This is why a legitimate user. I'm going to show you this, if I'm able to split. This is a kind of very quick example. Let's see if I'm able to speed this one. No. Thank you, SharePoint. But anyway, I cannot speed up the video here. But very briefly, I don't want to spend too much time here. But what it's doing here, on the left, you see the hacking tool, Burp Suite. On the right, a website. This is what the hacker is doing. He's opening the website here, Burp Suite on the left, and he starts navigating on the website. During the navigation, he's actually see all the traffic behind. Everything you see here, this is what actually the website is calling, everything. And most of this traffic is actually API. So what the hacker is doing is looking for this. And when he got the point, what is going to check for one of the call the API is interest for the hacker, and is going to replicate this. In this case, he's trying to see here. You see there is this kind of call API is using get, post, all the method together. So the hacker is trying to do what? He's trying to use and change from get to post, and trying to use some of the information here and trying to post this information to the API. And see what's happened. This is what the hacker do. Nothing more than that. People are thinking that hackers are doing such crazy things. It's much simpler than that. It's very simple. Everybody of you can be a really good API hacker, believe me. It's very simple. It's just a matter to have a lot of patience and just stay there and try everything. You need to try everything. You don't have idea what these guys are doing. These guys, they spend days just try everything. Try put data, mix, change, get, post, all these things. I can't do that. For me, it's such a boring things. I can't do that. But a lot of people, this is what they do. This crazy hacker, this is nothing more than that, right? So the point here is another things. Let's just back now in something more serious. And this is why, from some reason, even for me, security is boring, right? Because it's nothing more than that. Also, from the hacker side. So this is something that people say. Companies are largely relying on traditional approach, API security, WAF, API, gateway, all these kind of things. But only 23% find this method very effective. Do you agree with this? Yeah? Do you agree? Okay. I don't agree. Okay? I don't agree. I don't agree with this. I want to get this point here. Okay? Because we actually need to rely much more on this type of technology, at least try to cover the human factor. This is something that is actually helping us. The best companion we have right now to at least cover the human factor. What I consider this one, this is a chicken way. It is true. This is a chicken way. For me, it's a chicken way. I'm sorry. I needed to raise my card now because I have to raise my card. That is a chicken way. Because I have to raise my card all the time, right? I give you this. Microsoft just released now Microsoft Defender for API. Is fantastic, all right? This is something you enable, and this is going to look about your API you have in Microsoft Azure deployed, and it's going to look about a lot of different type of attack you have at OWASP level. The OWASP them I just showed you before, all right? And this is something that is helping us. But the point is, when I look about these things, like you just start a Defender from Azure, and this is what is really amazing, because even a person without really good experience about these security things, I don't care. I just enable in Microsoft Azure and look about my API. And you can be surprised about what you're going to find. Because these kind of things, they are going to look about your API stack, everything, configuration, all. And this is going to look about giving you a report with everything has been found at your API level. So this is really good. And I like that. I love that. Because if I have a lot of developers around doing a lot of things, how am I actually capable to understand if I'm at least my API are okay, not okay, can I have an inventory? This is giving you an inventory. Sure, just enable. You have API inventory right now. Everybody, you didn't raise your hand before. If you install this, you have an API inventory. At least you have an API inventory, which is really good. Just click of a button. So this is not true. This is why I don't agree with this kind of percentage. These tools are amazing. This is why we need to rely on them. However, I start trying understanding about why this happened. We have API now, Defender, a lot of different other things. We have Defender for cloud. We have other things, policies, name it. We have so many things around, all right? And technologies and wherever. Why all this problem with API? Why people are still able to hack inside API in such a simple way? And that is my thinking. My thinking is because the design usually is poor. Period. I'm sick of that. I'm telling you, I'm sick of that. You know how many people coming to me, architect, and coming and say, hey, Nino, look about this architecture. What do you think? Well, diagram, everything, technologies everywhere, and wherever. And I always make the same question, and I don't get the answer. And this is something so annoying for me that you cannot even believe. That is about the culture of security, all right? How many of you are actually using the concept of a C.I.A. triad in your design? Raise your hand. That is my point. That is my point. My point is how a person today, an architect, can be capable to design a good API, secure API architecture without using this principle. It's, in my opinion, is impossible. It's impossible. This is the base. When we speak about the deep security, that is deep security. If you don't use this principle, it's impossible you have an API, an architecture, secure architecture with API. Impossible. Let's begin. Let's begin. What is about in deep? Confidentiality, integrity, availability. Very simple than that. Confidentiality. If something must be confidential. When I say something, I say everything can be. Everything. It can be a virtual network. It can be an endpoint. It can be an API. It can be a logic app. It can be an Azure function. It can be a database. It can be a storage account, right? Integrity. How much I need to keep this with integrity. I send a message somewhere. I need to be sure about the integrity. It cannot change, ever, ever. It's very high. I cannot, right? And of course, availability. Very simple to understand. It must be always available. How much must be always available? From 0 to 100. How much? Okay, that is how an architecture should be designed, right? How to do that? I start digging, understanding how I can help architect, even developer, to use this inside, right? Because it's not even simple. I can understand that. It's not simple. So I start working, and this is what I'm delivering you today, all right? So I start splitting the API design, C.I.A, Triad. So we have different layers: transport, application, data, code, and policy. I put a policy in the middle because for me, policy is everything. It's the police, policy, the control, wherever. Wherever you are doing, I'm controlling, right? So policy is, of course, the base. So let's map, and this is what I start thinking, let's map a C.I.A Triad with API design, right? So let's grab this principle and mix and map this with the C.I.A Triad and everything. So this is something that is actually capable to deliver what we are looking to deliver. For that, I create, and I deliver it for you today, an handbook. This is an handbook. I wrote this handbook, and this one is actually a result of is 100 pages, right? Where I actually create all this mapping between C.I.A Triad and all the transport, data, code, and policy layer. This is free of charge. Use it. I'm doing this also for charity, for this center point. Just download it. And if you want to do a donation, very appreciate. Nothing more than that, okay? But what actually is doing this handbook? This handbook is going to map everything in this way. So for each layer, is going to give you, so you actually going to travel this handbook and you can search very quickly all these kind of things. And depending by the layer or area of API you need to protect or you need to work with, then you look for the type of technology you have to use. So for transport, when we are in transport, we are in the transport for messaging, integration, right? So we have for confidentiality, use HTTPS, TLS, API key, and so on. I just put some of them inside, okay? But how it's going to work is going to work in a way that in the moment you have to do your C.I.A Triad, then you are going to look after that and see, okay, this is something that is an endpoint, API endpoint, with very high confidentiality. What do I need to do here? What is the correct technology to use for that? All right? Because this is the concept. People start building an architecture without this completely. So my question every time is, why are you using endpoint protection for that? Why? Why? That's my question. And I can tell you, most of the people, they don't, and they are not able to answer my question properly. They just say, oh, because it's better. That's not the answer, right? You really need to know why you need to protect, for example, a storage account, right? Why you need to encrypt some data in a storage account. For what, right? So if you say high, medium, or low. So application, for confidentiality, application is the part of backend, right? For API, the part of application. So when we look about the confidentiality, transport, I forgot one thing about this. There is one nice video from last year from Toon van Root. I say Toon, where is there? Okay. He made a video last year. It was about API management and transport, all these kind of things. He's actually speaking about all these things, all these layers. So look about this video because it's very well done. He's actually explaining all the layers for that. Application, even the same thing. So we look about this, and we look about our resources. We start listing our resources, everything, and we start for each resource and see, okay, I have this logic app, this specific logic app. What kind of confidentiality, what level of confidentiality do I have in this logic app? High, medium, low. What kind of integrity? High, medium, low. What kind of availability? High, medium, low. And you are going to do this exercise everywhere for each resource. Everywhere. And I'm speaking about virtual network, logic app, function, everything. At the end of this exercise, this is for data, database, storage, all these things. This is just a few things. If you're going to look inside the handbook, you will find a lot of this, a lot, right? My idea was about, for the person, listing everything, getting the result, and from the result, high, medium, high, to be able to look in the handbook and say, all right, for this storage account, I have high integrity. What do I need to use? Go back in the handbook. This is a good thing to do, right? That was actually the mission. Code. Of course, code. Many people don't think about that. Code is actually the same thing. You have to go in your code and looking about your code. How much confidential is your code? High, medium, low? Integrity. How many of you are looking about the integrity of your code? I don't think many people. Okay, one. He raised the hand like that. 3 move, 4 move, like that. Good man. It was fantastic. Marvelous. Good. But integrity is one of the key points. SolarWind attack. How many of you knows about something like that? SolarWind attack. All of you, I suppose. But that is the point. That is the point. Integrity of your code. The people can inject the code in your pipeline. This is one of the most used attack ever. Ever. I don't know how many of you remember my attack to Windows Defender. I don't know. Yeah, you remember. Okay, another one in there. Yeah. It was, you know, it's just something simple, opening a remote process call from any code, right? And if you are able to inject this inside a Windows pipeline delivery, think about something like that. And Microsoft release a next patch for Windows. They can actually access to any computer around the world. But this is true. This is what's happened to SolarWind attack. Nothing more than that, right? Even Microsoft, which is, this is something I really want to say here. I want to take this opportunity to this big audience, okay? I want to say something about this. Because people around, they always say, yeah, Google Quick, Google, Amazon, AWS, all these kind of things. I want you to know that Microsoft is actually the very first company who actually really invest in security. First, ever, of any other company around the world, since and after Windows 95, right? They are really, since then, they are investing, and they invested so much money that you cannot even imagine. Not many other companies are doing the same. I would say Microsoft is the one. I'm not telling you this because I'm Microsoft MVP here. No, don't start laughing. I'm serious. I'm serious. All right? But it's true. All right? So, stop with this thinking, this saying about and other things. And this is policy. How many of you are using policy? How many of you have a document policy? 1. Okay. 2. Okay. How can you use a policy? That's my second question. How can you use policy or create policy without having a document policy. Huh? Right? Like you start applying the law without defining first. You start governing a country without writing down a constitution. It's something weird, right? Okay? So write down a document policy first. Write all the rules, everything, your law about the code, wherever, and after that, you just follow your document and you start creating all your policy. Please do that. I think it's now the second, third year I say the same thing. So I also have done one other thing. If you go in my website, ninocrudele.com, you will find a PowerShell script that is going to create for you this Excel file. So what you can do is creating what I call the Azure Resource C.I.A. decision matrix. That is the tool you need to use. It's very simple. It's nothing really complicated. You execute the PowerShell, you specify your subscription, your group of resource group, wherever it is, and it's going to list for you all the Azure resources in this subscription and wherever. And you have the availability, confidentiality, integrity with the description. This is actually an example where you are going to set high, medium, or low for each one, and inside the description, you are going to put why. If you have a document like that, then I can guarantee you your API architecture will be really secure. Believe me, because you will have a clear understanding about what to protect, why, and how. That is the key. If you don't have a document like that, even in mind, no, in mind, don't do in mind. Do properly, using at least an Excel file to do that, all right? Using a technique like that, I can guarantee you your API architecture, because I know you guys, you have all technology in mind. I know you have the knowledge. You are all expert. I know that. I have a lot of expert here. I know you have a lot of knowledge about technology, all these kind of things, everything. The point is the methodology, security and methodology. And that is the methodology to write a secure API architecture. There is no other way to do that, okay? There is another thing, and this is one thing I want to give you. And I'm really pushing this, is the gamifying security in API design. And not just in API design, I do gamification of security and other things everywhere because I like to play with things, right? I want to give you some suggestion how to do that. So something is a structure is, think about, you come back in your office now, okay? How you can do something like that? Let's start, for example, get your people, everything. You start with an introduction, all right? Let's speak about the importance of API security, all these kind of things. C.I.A. Triad. I'm sure many people in your company, they don't know about that. A lot of architects, they don't have any clue about that, right? It's not a shame, but this is true. So starting with an introduction, okay? Start with an overview of everything, the area, everything we have done during this session, and start doing exercising, gamification. Security is boring because people speak just about security, like shouting things. And I agree, it's boring. In this way, it's really boring. But believe me, if you do using gamification, it can also be really fun, a lot. You can organize playing, like a role-playing scenario. I put something like that. You will find scenario inside my handbook. You go there, you will find scenario, other things you can use and reuse internally to do these kind of things, right? And like, think about doing rules. I don't know how many of you know about the red, the blue team game. That is the kind of things. You bring some guys and teach them and say, hey, start attacking this guy. The other guys in the other side, they need to defend, right? This is a lot of fun. People really enjoy that, all right? And they also like hacking things. They feeling cool, hacking. but this is true, I know. You know. And also by team, using team. This is a very nice exercise. I use this exercise where you actually grab some participant and you stimulate them and say, let's do this using C.I.A. Triad. They actually get the point. When you start listing all these resources, they get the point. But first, let them create the architecture. Let them just do it, the job, as usually do. And after that, you grab the architecture and you start doing C.I.A. Triad. They say, let's do C.I.A. Triad now. Let's listing everything. Let's get everything with all the results, high, medium, low, everything. And now, let's map with your architecture, right? So, this is storage account is very high confidential. Why? Oh, actually, we save a very important file. Okay, why we are not actually protecting this? That architecture is wrong. So, right? Some example exercise also is secure application design. I love this one. This is where you put something in front of the people. I've done this with the code sometime. I just showed some code and I ask people, do you see something wrong in this code? And developers get crazy with that. They start looking, yeah, like this line, there. You can put some price or something, you know. And people really enjoy this kind of stuff. Data protection and also secure code development. This is something also about finding and fixing issue across the code. I think for me, there is any question? Question? Don't be shy. I don't bite. Okay. Okay, I hope. Oh, no question.
So when you want to divide environment using low, medium, and high. Oh, sorry.
Hello.
Oh, wow. Man.
So you were talking about dividing your environment into a low, medium, high security thing.
Yeah.
Why not put everything in high? Why not protect everything so you know everything is protected? Why should you then go like, well, this is kind of important, and then you have a special thing for that? Is there if we're accessing more secure data, or is that slower or more costly, or why should we not go for high?
Very good question. Very
I know.
good question. I had to put a Yo, Michael, you always you had to eat somewhere. Yeah. No, actually, really good question. I missed one slide on that. I had maybe to put this slide, but there is actually a very good principle on that, which actually you have the C.I.A. Triad is a pyramid like that, and you have a balance between cost and performance. That is the principle, right? You have to balance this, all right? It doesn't make sense you put everything in height. Of course not. Why not? Because actually, first, not everything is height. It's logic. Some you don't even care, right? You can even have things that you don't even care. People can just go and grab or wherever it is. Some of the things are really high security. The problem with that is I can guarantee you that even for 2, 3 simple resources in your architecture, if they are really high, even for confidential or integrity or wherever, it can completely change your architecture. Completely, drastically. Even the structure about the layer is just because something became high, right? It can just move this layer, became, completely, and move completely in another side of the architecture because it's so high for confidential or wherever. It can even force you to change your policy in your company because there is something so important that you really need to use Azure Airbag Security in such a deep way that you even need to go and discuss the policy of your company because you need that to protect this specific resource. And this is why C.I.A. Triad is so important. It's not just about API. Don't get me wrong here, guys. It's not just about API design here. The C.I.A. Triad is a security principle you must apply everywhere. Company, wherever it is, even in life, in your life. you should apply this. Yeah, even in your life, to organize the security of your life, you should use the C.I.A. Triad for everything in your life. Another question? But you can get me, if you want, we can also hack stuff with zero, flipper zero, and other things. And if you want the chicken way card, is here. All right? Okay? Thank you so much.